What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Game, and I want to talk about something that kind of slipped under my radar for a little while. Not so much slipped under my radar because I did hear about it. Honestly, I completely forgot to talk about it. Now, what am I talking about? Well, you might remember back last month in March when there was PAX East. And of course, with any of these game expos, game conventions, game whatever they're called, Square Enix had a presence at the show. They wanted to showcase some of their existing games, some of their upcoming games, and bizarrely enough, one of their longest running games. Because at Square Enix's show and at their presence, they had Final Fantasy XI, a bit of a bizarre choice to show off in 2019, considering the game released in 2002. But yes, despite it being 17 years old and one of the first two Final Fantasy MMOs, it's still running, not free to play, not buy to play, but it's still up and running this day using a subscription-based model. And it has a very small amount of players. I play it now and again whenever a free weekend or a free week or whatever it is comes up. And generally, depending on when I log in, you could see anywhere between 400 to 1400 people on the server. Now, there's obviously multiple servers, but I'm getting off topic. But to go along with this whole story, I do have to give you one extra little bit of background, because while the game did originally release in 2002 on the PS2 back in Japan, it was eventually ported to Xbox 360 and PC, as well as released in the West. Now PS2 and Xbox 360 support has been completely discontinued at this point, but over the course of the entire game's life it spawned 5 major expansion packs as well as several different little smaller add-ons, including a Crystalline Prophecy, a Moogle Coup d'Etat, a Shantoto Ascension, and the Abyssea trilogy. And all of this, at the very end of the day, was all culminating in what they call Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. It was essentially a small, minor story update that wrapped everything from the end of all major plot points and all major story arcs and expansions all together to kind of give you that happy ending. And this was all done because a few years ago when PS2 and Xbox 360 support was completely stopped, so was all major content development. They were essentially wrapping everything up with Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. And they promised that after Rhapsodies was done, they would only continue with small little add-ons and additions, battle tweaks, rotating gear rewards, things like that. No new proper substantial content. And this is where it starts to get weird, because last month at PAX, Square Enix made some kind of weird, cryptic, mystic announcement. They said within the next 3 years, they want to surprise every Final Fantasy XI user. Now this is very strange for multiple reasons, because number one of the main reasons they cited for discontinuing development was of course the dwindling player base. But the other reason that was cited was essentially all their old PS2 dev kits were just breaking down and they basically had no way to do it. So with Square Enix's announcement, it's got a lot of people, myself included, speculating on what they mean. So let's break it down a little bit further anyway. They said within the next 3 years, they want to surprise all Final Fantasy XI players, all Final Fantasy XI users, whatever it is, with some big announcement. Naturally, they're extremely coy and haven't detailed it in any way, shape or form. Hell, they haven't even gave any type of hint to be what it is. But let's look at it this way. Let's look at a couple of different options, as well as some nice, rampant, wild, irresponsible speculation. And the first thing we'll do to look at that is let's look at where we're going to be in 3 years. We will be in the year 2022, which will be the 20th anniversary of Final Fantasy XI. So naturally, there's a big push, big something, big anything for the 20th anniversary of the first ever Final Fantasy MMO. But what does it mean? What could we potentially be getting? Could they be resuming development? Personally, I don't think this is the case with a big asterisk, because there's one other thing that I think it could be, which might lead into this as well. But it remains to be seen. We'll get to that now in a minute. So as it stands with its current form and its current everything, no, I don't think we're getting any new expansions. I don't think we're getting any new add-on series. I don't think we're getting any new major content. Some people have theorized that they're going to upgrade the engine a little bit because, well, if you've ever played Final Fantasy XI, you know that the engine is extremely dated. I believe it's currently ported to DirectX 9, despite it originally being something like DirectX 6 or 7 that was eventually ported forward. But this has led to many problems when trying to play the game on modern hardware. People like myself obviously have beast computers that are way better than something to run a 2002 MMO, and we can get slowdown, we can get issues, all because of the way the game is made. Some people have also theorized that it's going free to play or possibly buy to play. I think buy to play would be an awful option because it still involves people paying outright for the game, for a niche game that everyone thinks is probably dead at this point. So that could lead to other problems. Free to play may not be as likely to happen, but I do think that would add a lot of more players and a lot of visibility to the game. We could potentially see some sort of new port. Now, maybe they're going to port it to the PS5, who knows? Because we all know the PS5 will be out by then, and that would just be kind of insane at that point. To run a PS2 game ported onto a PS5 20 years later. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case, but I want to go absolute all the way out there, pie in the sky, because this thing, if true, if is my prediction essentially, it's probably not going to happen. It's probably no chance in hell of happening. But I'm going to guess about it anyway, because I was just talking to someone about it the other day over breakfast. And that is, what if they were porting the entire game and rebuilding the entire game from the ground up? Kind of similar with what they did with Final Fantasy XIV when it first flopped. Picture this for a second, okay? You have everything in this game. This is a 20-year game at this point, or well, at the future 2022 point, with the base game, 5 major expansions, and depending on how you want to count it, 7 additional story add-ons. Now, if they were somehow able to manage to port this all over to a more modern platform, more modern engine, more modern anything, I'm going to use this as the example. Let's say they managed to port it over to the Final Fantasy XIV engine. This would be important for several different ways and several different reasons. Number one, it would allow them to have, obviously, extremely high quality visuals compared to the original version. I'm sure all the gameplay, all the everything could remain the same, but all they would need to do would be make it look, control and play like Final Fantasy XIV. Because of the updated engine and updated development tools, they would be able to create new content again because their development kits would work. They would have modern PC hardware development kits. They wouldn't be relying on breaking down old PS2 dev kits. This would also get a huge amount of eyes and a huge amount of attention back on the game. A lot of people these days either know about or have played or some way, shape or form are aware of Final Fantasy XIV. If they could say, hey look, here's our previous one, Final Fantasy XI. It almost looks identical and it plays very similar, but it's a completely different game. Why don't you go and check this out? Now granted, porting something like over that and converting the entire thing would naturally be a lot of development resources. However, when you think of it this way, maybe one might think 3 years of development resources, if you see my point. And naturally, if they were to get all those new people, all those old returning players, if they were to get all that attention, all those eyes, all that money, importantly, back into the game after they go through with this, they could potentially bring out new content, new expansions, new all of this stuff, because they would have the money, the resources, and more importantly, the audience and the incentive to do so. And there's one other little bit I'll put in just for the sake of it. You can call this nostalgia, you can call this rose-tinted glasses, you could call it whatever you want. No matter what Square Enix has done with the quality of the series of Final Fantasy, the mainline Final Fantasy, they obviously treat this very, very importantly. From Final Fantasy XIV's initial flop and Square Enix not wanting to damage the brand's reputation by leaving it in that state or as a flop and a failure, and just like Final Fantasy XV as well. At some point in the future, Final Fantasy XI would probably go offline forever. Sooner rather than later, if something drastic like I've predicted here doesn't change. So I don't think it would be outside the realm of possibility if Square Enix wanted to prolong the lifespan of one of their main entry games for as long as possible. To this day, we can all play Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, and 15. However, we cannot always say that will be the case for 11 and 14. I realize what I predicted here is a big, monumental ask, but hey, we'll see how it goes. 2022 is a long time away. Let me know in the comments section below. What do you think Square Enix could be doing on this? There's all types of speculation, all types of thoughts out there as well. Hell, for all we know, we could get an offline single player version of all the stories. But anyway, I want to know what you think that this could be. Let me know in the comment section below, as well as what you would hope it would be. What would be your number one want and number one ask, as well as what you think will actually be more likely to happen. So let me know all that good stuff in the comment section below. Hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did on the video, and while you're at it, why not head on over and hit the subscribe button and even ring the little notification bell. Granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year about a new video upload or a live stream or whatever is a whole other story. But hey, at least you can say you tried, am I right? As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.